All right, so welcome to this deep dive. And today we're going to be looking at The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People by Stephen Covey.
Oh, yeah, a classic.
It really is. I mean, if you're listening to this, you're probably interested in self-improvement, effectiveness, and maybe even leadership.
For sure.
This book covers all that, but we're not just going to do a basic summary, right? We're going deep.
Yeah, we're going for those lesser-known insights.
That's right. Covey's got all these hidden gems and principles that even if you've read the book, you might have missed.
Right.
He even uses like a mind-bending optical illusion to kind of drive home one of his points.
Yeah, he does. It's great.
So get ready, because your perspective is about to shift.
That's right. Covey's not about giving you a checklist of to-dos. He wants you to understand the deeper principles that drive lasting success.
Okay, I like that. So it's like us foundation.
Yeah, exactly. And those principles apply, whether you're running a business, raising a family, or just trying to be a better person.
So, I mean, right out of the gate, Covey talks about these paradigms. And, he uses that illustration, that picture that can be seen as either a young woman or an old woman.
Oh, yeah, I love that one.
How does that even work?
Well, it's kind of like a mental magic trick, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it really illustrates how our paradigms, the mental lenses we use to see the world, they actually shape what we perceive.
So it's like, it's not just what's physically in front of us.
Right. It goes deeper than that.
It's our whole belief system almost.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's how we interpret the world. And Covey argues that real, lasting change comes from shifting those paradigms, seeing the world in a new way.
Wow. So it's not just habits, it's like a fundamental shift in our thinking.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And to give you an example, he talks about the historical shift from a character ethic to a personality ethic.
Okay.
In the past, people focus on character, integrity, principles.
Right.
But now, it's often more about appearances, quick fixes.
Okay, yeah.
And he argues that this shift might actually be holding us back.
So it's like we need to look at the why behind our actions, not just the what.
Exactly. And that's where his maturity continuum comes in.
Oh, tell me about this.
Well, we all start out dependent, right, relying on others.
Right, when we're kids.
Exactly. Then we move to independence, where we're self-reliant, taking care of ourselves.
Okay, so we're growing up.
Right. But the real magic happens, according to Covey, when we reach interdependence.
And he makes it clear that interdependence is a choice.
Yes, a choice, not a given.
And he says that only truly independent people can even get there. It's like the next level of human interaction.
It is, it is. Think of it like a team project.
Okay, yeah.
If everyone's super dependent, nothing gets done. And if everyone is fiercely independent, they're just doing their own thing.
Right, no unity.
Exactly. But if you have independent folks choosing to work together to leverage each other's strengths,
Oh, that's where the magic happens.
that's where you see incredible results.
So how do we actually reach that level of interdependence? Covey seems to think that these like universal principles are key.
He does.
Fairness, honesty, integrity, human dignity, all that good stuff. But like, how does that translate into actually getting things done?
Well, he says these principles are like the laws of physics,
Whoa.
but for human interaction. Societies that ignored them throughout history, they crumbled. And the ones that embraced them, they thrived.
Okay, so it's not just about being good for the sake of it?
Right. It's that these principles are built into how we function effectively as humans.
So principle-centered living. But where do we even begin? This is where habit 1, be proactive, comes in, right?
Yep, that's the starting point. And it's not just about taking initiative.
Oh.
It's deeper than that. Covey means taking responsibility for our choices and focusing on what we can control.
Okay, so it's the opposite of blaming everyone else for our problems.
Exactly. He calls it the circle of influence.
Yeah, the stuff we can actually have an impact on. It's like complaining about traffic doesn't get you there faster.
Right. But choosing to leave earlier or finding a better route does.
I got it.
Those are things you can control.
Exactly. And to illustrate this, Covey tells a powerful story about a person facing a terminal illness.
Oh, wow.
And instead of being consumed by negativity, this person chose to focus on serving others, finding joy in the present moment.
Even in the face of something so difficult.
Even then, this person chose their response. Pretty powerful, right?
So no matter what life throws at us, we have a choice in how we react.
That's the key.
But how do we actually shift from being reactive to being proactive? It's like I've been programmed to blame traffic my whole life.
Well, Covey suggests a 30-day experiment. Just consciously choose proactive language and actions.
Okay.
Focus on your circle of influence, even in small things.
So it's about rewiring our brains.
Exactly, to see possibilities instead of limitations.
Okay, that makes sense. So we're taking responsibility, focusing on what we can control, but then there's this whole PPC balance thing. What's that all about? Ah, this is where things get interesting. So P stands for production.
Okay, the results you want.
Right. And PC stands for production capability, the thing that produces the result. Think of it like a farmer.
Okay, I'm listening.
The eggs are the P, the desired outcome.
Gotcha.
But the healthy goose that lays those eggs, that's the PC, the capability.
So it's not just about focusing on the output, it's about nurturing the source.
You got it.
Okay, I can see how that applies to farming, but how does it apply outside of that?
Well, Covey uses the example of a lawnmower. You can keep mowing the lawn, right? That's the production.
Yeah.
But if you never sharpen the blade or change the oil, that's neglecting the production capability.
And eventually, that mower's going to break down.
Exactly. And he even applies this to parenting.
Oh, interesting. How so?
He says that if you're constantly focused on getting your kids to behave, immediate obedience.
Right, like the P's are the immediate results.
Right, but you don't invest in their character development, the PC, the long-term growth.
You might get those short-term results, but...
But you could miss out on raising truly capable human beings.
Yeah, I see that. It's about playing the long game.
Exactly. And think about your own life. Are there areas where you're so focused on those immediate results that you're neglecting the underlying capability?
That's a good question. It's like we need to be mindful of that balance.
We do.
So taking care of our PC is all about setting ourselves up for success down the road. Which brings us to habit 2, begin with the end in mind.
Ah, yes. This one is all about defining your destination before you start the journey.
Otherwise, you might end up climbing the wrong ladder.
Exactly. Covey actually has this thought experiment he suggests.
Oh.
Imagine your own funeral.
Whoa. Okay, a little morbid.
It is. But it forces you to think about what you want people to be saying about you. What legacy do you want to leave behind?
That's a powerful question.
It is. And that clarity helps you decide if you're on the right track.
If your daily actions are aligned with that bigger picture.
Exactly. He talks about this business leader who was obsessed with leadership as a goal.
Which sounds good on the surface.
Right. But he never defined what kind of leader he wanted to be, what impact he wanted to have.
So he might have achieved leadership in title,
But missed the deeper meaning.
it's like having a map but not knowing where you want to go.
Exactly. You'll end up somewhere, but is it the right place?
Okay, that's a good point. And this is where Covey introduces this idea of principle-centered living
Yes.
and the personal mission statement.
Right. It's about anchoring your life to those timeless, unchanging principles we talked about earlier.
So instead of basing our worth on things that change our job, our money, what other people think of us,
Exactly.
we build our foundation on something solid and enduring.
Precisely. Think of it this way. If your center is your spouse, for example,
Okay.
your whole world revolves around them.
If they're happy, you're happy. If they're upset,
You're devastated.
wow.
But if your center is a principle, like integrity, let's say,
Right.
then your sense of self-worth comes from living in alignment with that,
Okay.
no matter what's happening around you.
I'm starting to see how this all ties together. So we've got these paradigm shifts, proactive living, a focus on principles,
Right.
and this idea of a personal mission statement.
It's all connected.
But Covey is also really well known for that time management matrix.
Yes.
The one with the 4 quadrants.
That's right. But most people get bogged down in just explaining the quadrants.
Right.
Let's cut to the chase. Covey's key insight with that matrix is that truly effective people focus on quadrant 2, the not urgent important stuff.
Wait, the stuff that's not urgent.
Yeah. Think about it.
I feel like I'm drowning in urgent tasks all the time.
Quadrant 1, that's crisis mode,
Yeah.
putting out fires. Important, yes, but it keeps you reactive.
Okay.
Quadrant 3, those are distractions. They seem urgent, but they don't actually matter much in the grand scheme of things.
Right.
And quadrant 4, let's not even go there.
So quadrant 2 is where the magic happens. But what even falls into that category?
Things like planning, relationship building, personal development, even exercise. These things aren't screaming for your attention right now, but they're crucial for long-term success and well-being.
Covey tells that story about hiring a really talented writer, right?
He does.
And this writer got so bogged down in urgent but unimportant tasks that he never had time to produce his best work.
It's a common trap. We get so busy, we forget to be effective.
So the challenge is carving out time for those quadrant 2
Right.
activities.
Schedule them like you would any other important meeting.
Okay.
And it's about being proactive, anticipating problems and preventing them, so you're not always in that reactive state.
So it's not just about managing time, it's about managing our priorities.
Exactly. Aligning our actions with what truly matters.
I'm really starting to see the bigger picture here. So we've got paradigm shifts, proactive living, focusing on principles, the personal mission statement, and this time management matrix.
It's a framework for a more effective life.
It is. But we're just getting started, right? I'm really excited to dive into those habits of interdependence, especially that emotional bank account concept.
Oh, yeah, that's a good one. It's all about building strong relationships and fostering trust. It's like a savings account, but for those tough times.
I like that analogy.
We'll dig into that in the next part of our deep dive. You know, it's so interesting how Covey connects that time management matrix back to those deeper principles. It's not just about, like, productivity hacks, right?
Right.
It's about making sure your actions match up with your values, with your mission.
Yeah, because if we're not careful, all those urgent but not important things can just take over our lives.
Totally.
And then we're basically living someone else's agenda, not our own.
Exactly. And that brings us to those habits of interdependence,
Okay.
where Covey shifts gears a bit, moves from personal effectiveness to building effective relationships.
I like it.
Remember that emotional bank account idea we mentioned earlier?
Oh, yeah, the one where relationships are like bank accounts. You got to make those deposits of kindness and understanding and trust so you have something there when things get tough.
Such a good metaphor, right?
It is.
Think about it. If you keep making withdrawals from that account, overdrawing it with negativity and broken promises, disrespect.
Eventually, that relationship goes bankrupt.
Exactly.
So what kinds of deposits are we talking about here? What are the things we can actually do to build up that reserve?
Well, Covey lists out 6 main ones.
Okay.
Understanding the individual, attending to the little things, keeping commitments, clarifying expectations, showing personal integrity,
Okay.
and apologizing sincerely when we make withdrawals.
So it's not just about these grand gestures, right? It's the everyday stuff.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The little acts of consideration, respect. Covey tells this story about a hotel with amazing service,
Okay.
where employees went above and beyond to create a positive experience for guests.
Yeah.
They didn't just follow the rules, they took initiative. They really cared about making people feel valued.
It's like they were making deposits into that emotional bank account with every interaction.
Exactly. And I bet those customers felt that and probably came back for more.
Totally. Those little acts of kindness, they create a ripple effect.
They do. And it all ties back to habit 5. Seek first to understand, then to be understood.
Oh, yeah. This is where empathic listening comes in.
It does.
Really tuning in to the other person's perspective before trying to, make your own point.
It's more than just hearing the words, though, right?
Right.
It's about understanding the emotions underneath, the needs, the motivations. And Covey contrasts this with what he calls autobiographical listening.
Autobiographical listening, what's that?
It's when we're so stuck in our own heads, our own experiences, that we're not really present with the other person. We're just waiting for our turn to talk.
Filtering everything through our own lens.
Exactly. So it's like 2 separate monologues happening, not a real dialogue.
Huh. Yeah, I've been there.
And Covey says empathic listening is about giving the other person psychological air,
Okay.
letting them feel truly heard and understood without judgment.
That makes me think of times when I've felt truly listened to. It's a great feeling.
Yeah, that's
It's like a weight lifted off your shoulders. You feel seen, respected, validated.
Exactly. And to illustrate this, Covey actually shares a personal story about a time when his daughter was sick.
Oh, wow.
And he and his wife were so worried that they almost missed understanding the doctor's perspective.
Oh, so even Covey struggled with this.
He did. They realized they were so focused on their own fears and anxieties that they weren't really hearing what the doctor was saying.
Wow.
But once they shifted their mindset and really tried to understand his perspective, they could finally trust his diagnosis and the treatment plan.
That's a powerful reminder that even when things are super emotional, we need to take that time to understand the other person's point of view.
We do.
But how do we actually do that? Empathic listening. It seems like a skill you got to practice.
It is.
Yeah.
Covey gives some techniques, like reflecting back what you're hearing, to make sure you're getting it right.
Okay.
Asking clarifying questions.
Yeah.
Not interrupting. Not jumping in with advice right away.
So it's about putting our own agenda aside and creating space for the other person to feel heard.
Precisely. And he even suggests telling the other person what you're doing,
Really?
like acknowledging that you're working on becoming a better listener.
That's interesting. Seems a little counterintuitive.
It might. But that transparency can build trust, make the other person more comfortable opening up.
Right, right. It's about creating that safe space for connection.
Exactly. And as we learn to listen empathically, we start to realize just how different everyone's perceptions can be.
Yeah, everyone sees the world through their own unique lens. And those differences can sometimes lead to misunderstandings, conflict, especially when we're trying to work together.
And that's where habit 6 comes in.
Yeah.
Synergize.
Ooh, synergy. I like that word.
It's all about using those differences in perception to create something even better, something greater than what any one person could do on their own.
So it's not about everyone agreeing.
No, it's about valuing those differences, recognizing that the whole is truly greater than the sum of its parts.
I love that. So how do we actually create synergy?
Well, Covey says it's about shifting from a scarcity mentality to an abundance mentality.
Abundance mentality. What does that mean?
It means believing there's enough for everyone to succeed, approaching challenges with a win-win mindset. He gives this great example of a business negotiation.
Okay.
One party was able to create a synergistic outcome by first taking the time to deeply understand the other party's perspective.
So instead of fighting for their own position, they look for a solution that worked for everyone.
Exactly. They created this environment of trust and respect, and that allowed them to move beyond their initial positions and come up with a truly innovative solution.
That's amazing. But it seems like that requires a lot of maturity and self-awareness.
It does. And Covey really emphasizes that synergy is not about compromise. It's about creating something new and better. He even talks about how important it is to value diversity, not just in teams, but in other areas of life, like parenting and education.
Oh, like that fable he tells about the animal school.
Yeah, where all the animals are forced to take the same classes even though they have completely different abilities. The eagle has to run, the duck has to climb trees, and everyone ends up miserable.
Such a good story.
It is. And it shows how ridiculous it is to try and force everyone into the same mold.
So we should celebrate our unique strengths and talents instead.
Exactly. Recognizing that everyone has something valuable to contribute.
I love that. This all sounds amazing, but I have to admit, putting these habits of interdependence into practice seems pretty challenging.
It does take effort, yeah, and intentionality.
Oh.
But the rewards are huge.
Yeah.
Imagine a world where synergy is the norm, where we value and leverage our differences, where we work together to solve problems. That's the kind of world Covey's work is pointing us towards.
That's a world I want to live in.
Me too.
But all these habits, being proactive, seeking to understand, synergizing, takes a lot of energy and focus.
It does.
How do we keep that up? How do we not burn out?
That's where habit 7 comes in. Sharpen the saw.
Oh.
This habit's all about renewing ourselves.
Oh, I like that.
In 4 key areas: physical, spiritual, mental, and social emotional. Think of it like this. Imagine you're trying to cut down a tree with a dull saw.
Sounds frustrating.
It would take forever.
Yeah.
And you'd be exhausted. But if you take a few minutes to sharpen that saw,
Oh, much easier.
the task becomes so much easier and more efficient.
Okay, I get the analogy, but like, how do we sharpen the saw in our own lives? What does that actually look like?
Well, Covey breaks it down into those 4 dimensions we talked about. Physical renewal, that's about taking care of our bodies. Exercise, nutrition, rest.
Right, the basics.
Exactly. Spiritual renewal is about connecting with our values, finding meaning and purpose, maybe engaging in things like meditation or prayer.
So it's about nourishing our souls as well as our bodies.
Exactly. Then there's mental renewal, keeping our minds sharp and engaged, learning, reading, writing.
Ooh, I like that.
Creative pursuits. It's about expanding our knowledge, challenging our assumptions, staying curious.
It's like a workout for our brains.
It is. And then there's social emotional renewal.
Okay, that sounds important.
It is. It's about nurturing our relationships, connecting with others, contributing to something bigger than ourselves.
So it's not just about self-care, it's about extending that care outwards.
Exactly. Covey emphasizes that if we neglect any one of these dimensions, it harms the others.
Oh, okay.
And it reduces our overall effectiveness. It's about taking a holistic approach to renewal.
It's like if you have a car, right?
Yeah.
If you don't take care of the engine, the tires, the brakes, eventually the whole thing falls apart.
Perfect analogy. We have to take care of all the parts to keep things running smoothly. And Covey gives some great examples of what this looks like in practice.
Oh, like what?
He talks about pushing himself to the limit at the gym,
Okay, yeah.
showing the importance of challenging ourselves physically. He also shares a story about a writer who found a ton of spiritual renewal by spending time in nature, reflecting on his values.
I love that. So it can be intense or really peaceful.
Exactly. Renewal can take many forms. And he also emphasizes the importance of lifelong learning, always seeking out new knowledge, new perspectives,
Hmm.
and the power of service, contributing to something larger than yourself.
Okay.
It's a way to renew that social and emotional energy.
It seems like this habit 7, it's really the foundation for all the others.
It is.
We can't be proactive or seek to understand others or synergize if we're totally exhausted, if we're not taking care of ourselves.
You got it. Covey actually says that habit 7 is personal PC.
Oh, right, like production capability.
Exactly. It's the key to maintaining and enhancing our ability to live a truly effective and fulfilling life.
It's about investing in ourselves so we can show up as our best selves.
Exactly. In all areas of life.
I'm really struck by how Covey emphasizes the interconnectedness of all these habits. It's not about just picking and choosing the ones we like.
Right?
It's about embracing the whole framework, this whole philosophy of principle-centered living.
It's like a symphony orchestra, you know?
Ooh, okay.
You can have amazing musicians playing individual instruments, but it's the conductor, that overarching vision, that brings it all together into a harmonious whole.
And in this case, the conductor is our personal mission statement, those core principles that keep us on track.
Exactly. And remember, Covey doesn't just present these ideas in some abstract way.
Right.
He gives you practical advice for putting them into action, like that exercise for the time management matrix.
Oh, yeah, where you take a look at your week and you figure out which quadrant all those tasks fall into.
Exactly. It's such a simple but powerful way to see how you're spending your time. And then start shifting your focus to those quadrant 2 activities.
The ones that are so important in the long run.
Exactly. He also gives some really insightful tips on delegation.
Oh, yeah, delegation. That's a tough one.
It is. He stresses the importance of being clear about expectations and outcomes,
Right.
but also giving people the freedom and support they need to succeed, empowering them, not micromanaging them.
He even has a phrase for that, win-win delegation, where both people benefit.
Exactly. It's about creating that culture of trust and collaboration, where everyone feels valued and empowered to contribute.
One thing that really resonates with me about Covey's work is his emphasis on authenticity.
Yes. Being genuine.
He says the most important thing we bring to any relationship isn't what we say or do, it's who we are.
Living in alignment with our values.
Yeah, and letting those values guide our actions.
It's about being real, not putting on a show.
He even says that if we're trying to apply these principles but we're doing it from a place of manipulation, people will see right through it.
They will. It's about building real connections, fostering trust and respect.
And that means doing the inner work, developing our character, our integrity.
It does. Becoming the kind of person that others naturally want to connect with.
That's what makes Covey's work so timeless and inspiring. It's not just about achieving success, it's about becoming the best version of ourselves.
I agree.
Living a life of meaning and purpose, grounded in those timeless principles and driven by a desire to make a positive difference.
And it's a journey we can all take no matter where we're starting from. He encourages us to take it one step at a time.
Yeah.
Focus on making those small, consistent improvements.
Yeah.
Celebrate the progress along the way.
Because even those small steps done consistently can lead to big changes.
It really can. That's what's so exciting about this work. It's about unlocking our potential, individually and collectively. It's about creating a world where synergy is the norm,
I love that.
where we value and leverage differences, where we work together to solve those big challenges.
Covey's 7 habits, they provide a roadmap for that journey.
They do. A set of principles and practices that can help us live more effective, fulfilling lives.
This deep dive has really just been a glimpse into the richness of his work. So we encourage you to keep exploring these ideas.
Yes.
See how they resonate with you, and find ways to apply them to your own life.
Because the real power of Covey's work isn't in the reading.
Right.
It's in the doing.
Taking these principles and putting them into practice day after day.
Until they become those ingrained habits.
The ones that shape our thoughts, our actions, our relationships.
And as you go on this journey, remember, you're not alone. There are so many people out there also trying to live more effective and meaningful lives.
So connect with those people. Share your experiences, support each other.
And together, we can create a world that reflects those 7 habits principles.
A world where synergy, abundance, win-win solutions are the norm.
A world worth striving for.
It all starts with each of us. Our commitment to personal growth, to building strong relationships, to living a life of principle-centered leadership.
So keep sharpening that saw.
Keep learning, keep growing, and keep diving deep.
Until next time.